The phone buzzes at 2 a.m. Not the first time this month. When you finally look, 6 months later, you realise the truth was screaming at you the entire time. But here's what destroys men. It's not the betrayal itself. It's the realisation that you saw every single warning sign and convinced yourself it meant something else. Your gut knew, your logic argued, and logic lost. Today, I'm going to show you 9 psychological traits that appear before cheating ever happens. Not theories, not guesses. Behavioural patterns that show up early, stay consistent and predict outcomes with disturbing accuracy. This isn't about becoming paranoid or building walls. It's about seeing clearly when your emotions are begging you to stay blind. Stay with me. Let me start with something that might sting. You're not bad at reading people. You're bad at reading people you're attracted to. There's a reason for this. When attraction hits, your brain releases chemicals that literally suppress your threat detection system. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin. They don't just make you feel good, they make you selectively blind. You start seeing potential instead of patterns. You start hearing explanations instead of excuses. And women who cheat, whether consciously or not, learn to recognize this window and operate inside it. Here's the brutal truth. Most men don't lose relationships because they missed the signs. They lose them because they saw the signs and chose hope over evidence. That choice, that single decision to trust your feelings over your observations, cost you months or years you'll never get back. The 9 traits I'm about to walk you through aren't about labeling someone as bad or broken. They're about recognizing risk before you're too invested to walk away. These patterns exist. You've probably seen them before. The question is, will you see them next time? Trait 1. Boundary testing through incremental violation. She doesn't blow past your boundaries all at once. She doesn't have to. Instead, she tests them like someone checking ice before walking on a frozen lake. A little pressure here, a small step there, watching to see if it holds or cracks. It starts impossibly small. She mentions an ex-boyfriend in conversation, just casually. No big deal. You don't react, so 2 weeks later she mentions him again. Still nothing. A month later, she's texting him. Just as friends. You feel uncomfortable, but you don't say anything because you don't want to seem insecure. That's silence. That's her green light. This is how boundaries die. Not through explosion, but through erosion. Each small violation that you let slide becomes the new baseline. What felt wrong last month feels normal now. What would have been a deal breaker at the beginning becomes something you've learned to tolerate. This is called graduated desensitization, and it's how cheating becomes possible. Watch for this pattern. She does something that crosses a line, watches your reaction, and if you don't enforce the boundary, she goes further next time. It's not malicious. It's behavioral. She's learning what she can get away with. And here's the key. If you don't have clear boundaries that you're willing to defend, she'll keep pushing until she finds where they actually are. The problem is, by the time you finally say something, she's already so far past the original line that enforcing it now feels controlling. The early sign, she violates small agreements or understandings, then watches how you respond. If you address it directly, she respects it. If you stay silent or make excuses for her, she knows the boundary isn't real. Every boundary that doesn't get defended becomes permission. Trait 2. The chaos cultivation pattern. Some women operate best in controlled storms, not because they enjoy drama for its own sake, but because chaos gives them cover. When everything is always a little bit unstable, it's much harder to see patterns. You're always reacting, never analyzing. This trait shows up as manufactured unpredictability. Plans change last minute. Moods swing without clear cause. One day she's all in, the next day she needs space. You can't find solid ground because the ground keeps shifting. And that's the point. When you're constantly off balance, you stop asking questions. You start accommodating. You become focused on stabilizing her rather than protecting yourself. Here's what most men miss. Chaos is a control mechanism. It keeps you in a reactive state where you're always trying to win her back, always trying to fix whatever's wrong, always working to return to that brief moment when everything felt good. Meanwhile, she has complete freedom to do whatever she wants because you're too busy managing the chaos to notice what's actually happening. The psychological term is intermittent reinforcement, and it's the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive. Unpredictable rewards create stronger attachment than consistent ones. When she's inconsistent, you become more attached, not less. Your brain gets hooked on the highs because the lows make them feel more valuable. And while you're riding that emotional roller coaster, she's operating with complete autonomy. Cheating thrives in chaos because it's just one more unpredictable element in an already unpredictable system. When nothing makes sense, adding one more thing that doesn't make sense barely registers. The early warning. Her life always seems to be in some state of crisis or transition, and she seems almost comfortable there, not stressed by chaos, energized by it. Trait 3. Selective transparency. Privacy is healthy. Selective transparency is manipulative. The difference is intent and pattern. Healthy privacy means some things stay private, but the access rules are consistent. Selective transparency means access is granted or denied based on what benefits her in that moment. You'll see this in how information flows. She volunteers details when it serves her interests. She creates an impression of openness by oversharing things that don't matter while keeping things that do matter completely hidden. It's not what she shows you, it's what she makes sure you can't see. Watch how she handles her phone. Not whether it's locked, but whether her behavior around it is consistent. Some days it's face down on the table between you. Other days she takes it with her everywhere, even to the bathroom. That inconsistency isn't random, it's situational. She's managing your access based on what's currently in there, not based on a consistent boundary. The same applies to her schedule, her friendships, her past. She gives you just enough information to feel like you know her while keeping the full picture permanently out of reach. You get pieces but never the whole puzzle, and when you ask for clarity, she doesn't refuse. She gives you something, just not quite enough. You leave the conversation feeling like you got an answer, but you can't quite shake the feeling that you didn't. This trait is particularly dangerous because it mimics healthy independence. You don't want someone who tells you everything. That's clingy. But there's a difference between independence and strategic opacity. Independence means, I have my own life. Strategic opacity means, I control what you're allowed to know about my life. The early sign. Her transparency fluctuates without clear reason. Some days you feel completely connected to her world. Other days you feel like a stranger to it. If you can't predict when you'll have access and when you won't, you're dealing with selective transparency. Trait 4. The narrative architect. Some people tell stories about their life. Others construct them with lawyer-level precision. This is the narrative architect, a woman who doesn't just explain events, but frames them in ways that always cast her in a specific light. Usually the victim, sometimes the hero, never the villain. Listen to how she talks about past relationships. Every ex is either crazy, abusive, or just didn't get her. She's never at fault. Things always just happened to her. She didn't make choices that led to outcomes. She encountered situations that she had to respond to. This isn't reflection. It's revision. She's not telling you what happened. She's telling you the version of events where she's blameless. This trait matters because it reveals something critical. She lacks accountability infrastructure. When someone can't acknowledge their role in negative outcomes, they can't learn from them. More importantly, they can't prevent them. If every relationship failure was someone else's fault, she hasn't developed the self-awareness necessary to avoid repeating the same patterns. When cheating happens, this trait becomes dangerous in a different way. She won't just cheat. She'll rewrite the entire relationship history to justify it. We've been distant for months. If you haven't been distant, that doesn't matter. In her narrative, you have been. You never made me feel special. Even if you did, in her revised version, you didn't. She needs the story to make sense where she's still the good person, which means you have to become the bad person retroactively. You'll spot this trait early in how she discusses conflict. Does she ever admit fault? Not just apologize, but actually acknowledge her part in creating a problem? Or does every explanation come with a justification that transfers responsibility elsewhere? I know I said that, but you made me feel... That but is the tell. It's not an admission, it's a redirect. The early sign: her stories always have heroes and villains, and she's never the villain. Life doesn't work that way. If someone has no capacity for self-criticism in their narrative, they have no capacity for self-correction in their behavior. Trait 5. Attention shopping. This trait is subtle, because it looks like normal social behavior. She's friendly, outgoing, likes meeting new people. Nothing wrong with that. But there's a difference between being social and attention shopping. Social people enjoy connection. Attention shoppers are comparison shopping, constantly evaluating whether someone new might provide something better, different, or more. Watch how she interacts with other men, but more importantly, watch the pattern. Does she collect male attention the way some people collect business cards? Always adding, never subtracting. Her phone is full of guys she's just friends with, most of whom are clearly interested in more. She knows it. You know it. But she maintains contact anyway because why would I end a friendship just because they have feelings? That's not friendship, that's keeping options warm. She's not feeding those connections for their own sake. She's feeding them in case she needs them. It's emotional insurance. And the pattern matters more than any individual case. One guy from work who texts occasionally might be harmless. 7. Guys who all have varying levels of emotional investment in her, all of whom she maintains just enough contact with to keep interested. That's not coincidence. That's strategy. The psychology here is simple. People who cheat rarely do so impulsively. They do so opportunistically. They don't wake up one day and randomly meet someone. They've been cultivating options all along, sometimes consciously, sometimes not. When the moment comes, the opportunity is already there. All they have to do is stop saying no. You'll see this in her behavior around male attention. Does she shut it down or encourage it? When someone flirts with her, does she create distance or lean in slightly? It's not about being friendly. It's about whether she's actively discouraging romantic interest or passively allowing it to build. The early sign: she has an unusual number of male friends who would date her if given the chance, and she keeps all of them in rotation. Trait 6. The empathy gap. Empathy isn't feeling sad when someone else is sad. That's sympathy. Empathy is the ability to accurately model someone else's internal experience, especially when it conflicts with your own desires, and some women simply don't have it, at least not in romantic contexts. You'll notice this in how she responds when she's hurt you, not just whether she apologizes, but whether she actually seems to grasp what you felt. Does she understand the impact of her actions on your emotional state? Or does she only understand that you're upset and it's inconvenient for her? Those are vastly different things. A woman with low empathy in relationships can compartmentalize your pain. She knows intellectually that cheating would hurt you, but she doesn't feel it viscerally enough to prevent it. The consequences feel abstract until they're real, and by then, it's too late. This is why remorse after cheating often feels performative with certain women. They're mimicking the emotional responses they know they're supposed to have, not experiencing genuine devastation at having caused you pain. Test this early in small ways, not deliberately, but pay attention when minor conflicts arise. When she does something that bothers you and you express it, does she seem to actually feel it? Or does she immediately become defensive, making it about her discomfort at being confronted rather than your discomfort at what happened? That's the empathy gap. She can't hold your pain because she's too busy managing her own reaction to your pain. The dangerous part is how this trait interacts with others. A woman with high empathy might want to cheat but can't follow through because she viscerally experiences what it would do to you. A woman with low empathy wants to cheat and can follow through because your pain exists more as concept than reality until it's right in front of her. The early sign. When you're hurt, her first response is consistently about her, how she feels about you being hurt, whether you're attacking her, whether this means you don't trust her. Your pain becomes about her discomfort. That's not empathy, that's self-protection. Trait 7. History as prophecy. Past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. Not perfect, but best. And when it comes to infidelity, history isn't just informative, it's prophetic. A woman who has cheated before is statistically, demonstrably, exponentially more likely to cheat again. Not because she's a bad person, but because she's already proven she can cross that line and live with it. The mental barrier that stops most people from cheating isn't just moral, it's psychological. It's the inability to imagine yourself as someone who would do that. Once you've done it, that barrier is gone forever. You know you're capable of it. You know what it feels like before, during, and after. You know the justifications that work. You know which rationalizations quiet the guilt. You have a playbook. This is why it only happened once means nothing. Once is enough. Once proves it's in the repertoire of possible behaviors, and behaviors in the repertoire come out under the right conditions, whether that's stress, opportunity, resentment, or just a bad month. Here's what to watch. How she talks about past infidelity, either hers or others. Does she minimize it? Does she have elaborate justifications? Does she blame the partner she cheated on? All of these are red flags because they show she hasn't integrated the experience as a moral failure she needed to learn from. She's integrated it as an unfortunate circumstance that she had understandable reasons for. The truth is simple. Cheaters rarely reform, and never without serious internal work. If she cheated before and hasn't done deep therapy, deep self-examination, or made fundamental changes to how she handles temptation, she will cheat again. Maybe not with you, maybe not immediately. But under the right pressures, with the right opportunity, she will do what she's already proven she's capable of. The early sign, she's cheated before, and either minimizes it, justifies it, or claims it was completely out of character. If it was truly out of character, it produced a crisis of identity that forced growth. If she's not describing that crisis, she hasn't actually changed. Trait 8. The accountability allergy. Watch what happens when you try to hold her accountable for anything. Not in a controlling way, just in a normal, you said you'd do this and you didn't way. Does she own it, or does she immediately deflect, excuse, justify, or counterattack? Women with an accountability allergy can't sit with being wrong. Their ego structure can't handle it. So they've developed elaborate defense mechanisms that activate the moment responsibility approaches. She didn't flake on plans, you didn't remind her properly. She didn't snap at you, you were being sensitive. She didn't lie, you misunderstood. This trait is crucial for predicting cheating because Cheating requires violating an agreement, and if someone can't handle being held accountable for small violations, they certainly can't handle being held accountable for massive ones. The response isn't to not violate, it's to not accept responsibility for the violation. You'll see this pattern play out in stages. First comes denial. That's not what happened. If denial doesn't work, comes minimization. It's not that big of a deal. If that fails, comes justification. You made me feel like I had to. And if all else fails, comes reversal. The fact that you're even bringing this up shows you don't trust me. Within 2 minutes, you've gone from addressing her behavior to defending your right to address her behavior. That's not conflict resolution, that's manipulation. And if she can redirect accountability in small things, she'll do it in large things. When cheating happens, you won't get ownership. You'll get a masterclass in why it was actually your fault. You were distant. You weren't meeting her needs. You pushed her away. Somehow the person who violated trust becomes the victim, and the person who was betrayed becomes the villain. The early sign, you find yourself apologizing more than she does, even for things she did. If you're constantly in the position of smoothing things over, making excuses for her behavior, or accepting blame for reactions to her actions, you're with someone who has an accountability allergy. And that trait doesn't stay small. Trait 9. Future faking. Future faking is talking about the future in vivid detail with no intention of ever getting there. It's painting pictures of what life will be like, what you'll do together, where you'll go, how things will be different. All of it designed to keep you invested in potential rather than evaluating reality. She talks about trips you'll take, but somehow they never get booked. She mentions moving in together, but the timeline stays perpetually vague. She describes the version of herself she's becoming, but the current version never actually changes. It's all horizon, no road, all destination, no journey. This trait serves a specific function. It keeps you waiting. As long as you believe the future she's describing is coming, you'll tolerate the present she's delivering. You'll excuse current behavior because you're invested in future behavior. You'll overlook red flags because you're focused on the finish line she keeps moving just out of reach. Women who cheat often use future faking to maintain the primary relationship while exploring alternatives. They keep you locked in with promises while remaining uncommitted in action. You think you're building towards something. She knows she's buying time, and the longer you believe in the future she's selling, the more of your present she gets to waste. Watch for the gap between words and actions. Does she talk about commitment but avoid actually committing? Does she describe exclusivity but resist defining the relationship? Does she paint pictures of forever but keep one foot out the door? That gap is everything. Words are free, actions cost. And when someone gives you unlimited words but limited actions, they're paying in the cheaper currency. The early sign, she's comfortable making big future promises but uncomfortable with small present commitments. If she'll talk about marriage but won't call you her boyfriend, if she'll discuss moving in together but won't leave a toothbrush at your place, you're being future faked. If you recognize multiple traits in someone you're with or someone you're considering, don't panic. Don't immediately accuse. Don't create drama. Just take a step back and observe. Because here's what most men get wrong. They see these signs and either ignore them completely or confront immediately. Both are mistakes. Ignoring them means you're choosing comfort over truth. You're hoping your gut is wrong so you don't have to make hard decisions, but your gut is rarely wrong about these things. It's just usually ignored. Confronting immediately means you're showing your hand before you have enough information. And if she has even half the traits on this list, she'll explain everything away and make you feel crazy for noticing. The right move is quiet observation. Watch. Patterns don't lie, and patterns take time to reveal themselves fully. Give her enough rope to either prove your instincts right or wrong. If you're wrong, you lose nothing. If you're right, you save yourself months or years of pain. Here's the deeper truth. These traits aren't really about spotting cheaters. They're about recognizing low character people before you're too attached to leave. Because a woman with most of these traits might not cheat on you specifically, but she will cause you pain. She will betray you in some form. She will cost you peace. Whether it's through infidelity or something else, the outcome is the same. You lose. The men who avoid this aren't lucky. They're disciplined. They observe before they commit. They trust patterns over promises. They value their peace more than they fear loneliness. And when something feels wrong, they don't wait for proof. They don't need to catch her in the act. They just recognize that their gut is telling them something important, and they listen. You can't control whether someone cheats on you, but you can control how long you stay once the signs appear. You can control whether you ignore your instincts or trust them. You can control whether you invest in women based on who they are or who you hope they'll become. These 9 traits are your early warning system. Not perfect, but reliable. Not paranoia, but pattern recognition. And the difference between men who get blindsided and men who see it coming isn't intelligence or experience. It's willingness to see what's really there instead of what they want to be there. Subscribe if you want more breakdowns on female psychology that don't sugarcoat reality, like if you're tired of finding out too late. Comment if you've seen these patterns play out. And remember, awareness isn't cynicism, it's self-preservation. The goal isn't to avoid all women, it's to avoid the wrong ones before they cost you everything. Stay sharp.